Hello, and this is a short video to help you create your histograms for Project 1B. This is for math class Math 190. First thing we want to do is we want to take a look at the instructions to create the histogram, and you can download that from our assignments page. It should look something like this. And so this has a total of 17 steps, so that's a lot of steps to take. But it's broken down in parts. So our first main part is to get our information into Google Drive, and then we want to sort the data so that we can separate the adult versus the child serials, and then we want to create the histogram, and then we customize the histogram and do the same thing for the children's histogram or children's serial, and then we insert it into our Google Doc so that we can have the charts in our doc file. Alright, so that's the basic idea. You can follow through the instructions, and I'm just gonna take this away and get started. So first of all, we want to make sure that you're logged into your Google account, and it's best that you have the my.smccd email account. And then we download our data set. Once it's downloaded, we have this information here. Our data set is here, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that we make a copy. So our first step is to make a copy, and then we're going to save it to our drive. And then it would have been good, I think it would be good if you had if you have a Math 190 folder set up. So here's my Math 190 folder, and I will select this folder to save my drive in, or to save my serial data in. And the default is going to be the default name is copy of serial data, but you can of course change that if you want. I'll leave it like that. And so now I have the copy of serial data. Now there's the original serial data here that I downloaded, and I don't want that, so let me just close that out. And here's my serial data. We will be using our serial data throughout the semester, so I want to save or preserve this, and I want to work on the project in a different place. So I'm going to duplicate this. Just go down here to the insert a worksheet. I'll duplicate it, and I think I want to rename this, so I can double click and name it Project 1B. So I know that this is for my Project 1B. Okay, so now I am all set with the first part, and that is that I have my data set in Google Drive. Now I want to make two histograms, one for adults and one for children's. And so if I notice down here, it's all mixed up. So I want to sort this by target. So there's a couple of ways to sort it. One way is to go to the data and then sort the whole sheet by column C, and our target is in column C, so I can just click on that, and then now it's sorted according to column C. So all the adult serials are first, and all the children's serials are last. So my data set is sorted. I also could have just done a pull down menu over here and then sort the sheet from A to Z, and that would have resulted in the same thing. Notice that I have this line over here. Google Sheets has a nice feature where if you move this line down, it'll understand that the top row, the first row, are all headers, and so it doesn't sort the word target. It doesn't assume that target is one of the variables. I mean, it is a variable, but it's not one of the data points. So that's a nice feature. Okay, now I think we're ready to create a histogram. Our histogram will be on carbs, and so if I look at carbs over here, I see all the numbers that I want to put in the histogram for the adults and then at some point it'll change to all the numbers that I want to put in the histogram for the child serials. So what we want to do is we want to highlight just the adult serials. So as long as 5 is not highlighted right now, that's our first number, I can click and drag until I see my last number for the adult. So that's one way to do it. Oops, I missed one. The other way to do it is I click somewhere else. Now I'm going to click on 5 and let go, and then I'm going to scroll down to the last number that I want. So for the adult serial, the last number is 17. That's the carbs. So I will press Shift and click. And what that's going to do is going to highlight everything from where your cursor is up to the current cursor that you're on. Okay. So now that we have that highlighted, we're going to go to Insert, Chart, and Google Sheets will assume a chart format for you, but of course you can change that. So this looks like it's probably a case value graph, but we don't want that, so we're going to go to Chart Type in the chart editor, and I'll scroll all the way down to histogram. Notice that if you mouse over, it tells you the name of the type of chart that we're dealing with. So we want a histogram. If I click on that, here's my histogram. Okay, so now you have your histogram up. The next thing we want to do is we want to customize this. So we want to adjust the bin size, or in here they call it bucket size. So this goes from 0 to 3.57 to 7.14. Those aren't very nice numbers to deal with. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Customize, and in histogram we're going to change the bucket size, and we can change it to either 1 or 2 or 5, but actually you can type in any number you want. So this time I'm going to try typing in 3, enter, and now I have my histogram with bucket size 3, starting from 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, etc. Okay. The other thing that might be good to do is to figure out what the range is and then find an appropriate x-axis limits. Before we do that, let's change the name. So this is the name for adult serials. So I'm going to go to Chart and Axis Titles, and then here the chart title, you can say Adult or Adult Serials. And then I want to label the bottom by its variable, and that's the carbs. So I'm going to go to the type here where it says chart title, and I want to change the horizontal axis, and I want to say this is carbs and then servings or grams per serving. And so now I have my x-axis labeled. Keep scrolling down and go to horizontal axis, and let's change some information from here. We'll call the horizontal axis the minimum and the maximum value. So it would be good to look at the child serial as well to see what the smallest and largest values are, and for this case I'm just going to go from 0 to 25. Actually, that's what it's already set to, but by putting this here, we can have more control over it. Okay, there are these other things that if you want to mess with, the grid lines, you want to label the vertical axis as frequencies or counts, or things like that. There's this legend over here. We can keep that legend there, or we can take it out. So you can take it out by going to where it says position right and click on none. And so that would get rid of the legend and make this just a little bit wider. Okay? Alright, So we got our histogram done for our adults. Let's close the chart editor and take a look at this. If for some reason you close the chart editor and you want to continue working on it, you can just double click or just single click, and then you have that data and customize setup again. Alright, so let's make this a little smaller. And then let's put that aside. And now let's do the same thing for the child serial. So we're going to go down. Child serial starts over here with the apple cinnamon crisp. And let's highlight the first one. I'll scroll down, shift, click to the bottom. And then I'm going to scroll back up here so in an attempt to have my chart close to the top again. And then I will go to Insert, Chart, and then again the chart type is going to be a histogram. Now this goes from 5 to 9 to 13, etc. So we want to change all that. So let's customize like we did before. Let's start with the bucket size for the histogram, and remember that it should be the same as before, which is 3. Let's go to the titles and change that. The chart title would be Child Serials. And then let's look at the horizontal axis, carbs, and then grams per serving. And then let's continue to go down here to the horizontal axis and set our minimum from 0 to 25 so that side by side or right underneath each other we can have a good comparison between these two graphs. Oh, let's get rid of the legend. Okay, so now we have the two graphs. We're all set to put it in our data set. So to do this, let's go back to our Google Docs. And notice that the serial information is here already. Let's go to New and Google Docs. And then so we're essentially starting a new document here. This is a document that you're going to print a PDF of and then print a hard copy of so that you can submit it in class. Let's change the title. Let's call it Project1B, and then I'm going to put my name here. And then let's get our headers here. So our name, the instructor's name, the subject, and then the date. And then the title is going to be, we'll just call it Project1B. And then we want to set up our research question. So I think we want everything to be double spaced. So what we can do is we can highlight everything by doing a select all. And then let's go to line spacing and have it double spaced. I think Project1B is our title, so let's center that. And then down here, the first thing we want to include is our research question. And our research question is, for this particular problem, is how does the carbohydrates in child cereals compare to adult cereals? Okay, so now that we have the header all set up, let me just boldface this. This is a pretty important research question. Now that we have everything set up, we want to include our data set or our charts. So to do this, we're going to go to Insert, Chart, and now we have a choice here to go to get the charts from Sheets. And it's the first sheet that's going to be listed is the latest that you've been working on. And then you have, so I double clicked on that. Now you have two of these, so I can do a shift click and select both of them. and say import. Now it's going to import these sheets or these charts as big as what they have, but we want to shrink it down so that they're kind of right next to each other. So if we shrink both of them down and then just adjust the size so that they can look like they're side by side, then that'll work out. Now the advantage of doing this instead of cutting and pasting is that when you're looking at this and say, oh, we have the bin sizes to be 3 and I want to change that, you can just literally go to your back to your data set. You can work on the child serial and call it change the histogram to a bin size of 2. Let's try that again. Change it to a bin size of 2, and then I want to change this to a bin size of 2 as well. So now that I've changed the bin sizes, the graphs look totally different. And if I go back to my Word document, and they have an option to update these files because it was changed, so we can update that and update that, and then now we have the updated version based on our changes that we made in the Google Sheets. Okay, so now you have a couple of histograms to compare. You can look at the shape, the center, the spread, and talk about it and discuss whether or not you think the amount of carbs in child cereal is different from the amount of carbs in adult cereals. Okay, so you can take it from here. We have the histogram set up, and you can just pause and rewind and take a look at the parts that may not be clear to you in this video. Okay, good luck.